Alright, today we're going to be doing a NIS9 install for the V-Line. This is a 2014 Nissan Armada, and we're going to be taking out this whole assembly here. So the first place we need to start is down here by the cigarette lighters. You'll want a pry tool. You can use a plastic one, I'm just using a metal one. And if you just pry down from the top, you get the top clips out and it'll come out. From there, you can rotate it sideways, and you're just going to unplug the cigarette lighters back here. Once you get the first one undone, then it'll slide out. You can undo the second one. And they're just on either side there. And you can see the clips all around. From there, we've got two Phillips heads or 8mm. We've got an 8mm socket on a drill here. And then once you've done that, you'll take your pry tool again. The best way to do it is start down here and kind of get these clips out. You can kind of pull on them. It's just easier to pull on the bottom ones first since you can see them. Once you've got those out, you can take your pry tool along the side here and just kind of pry out whatever else didn't come loose. And before we set this down, we've got a towel right here that we're just going to set over all this trim just so we don't scratch anything up. And then this one is missing two screws actually, so we can show you that as well. There's going to be two screws. You can look right up in here, and you can see the metal bracket up in there. Possibly it should be an 8mm or a Phillips head, and it'll be directly back there. There's a bracket on the side of the radio that we'll show you that actually connects to that. Alright, so we'll pull this back out. And then from here you're going to want to unplug the radio plugs. They're the only things that are really going to be holding it in. And then we're going to need to connect our T-harness to those as well. And then from there you should be able to just kind of set the radio down. We've got access to all of our plugs here that we're going to need for the install. There's also a plug behind here that we're going to need for the display. Make sure you're not plugging in our display cable. It should be the GBNMF. Do not plug that into the radio. That has to go to the display. If you plug it in the wrong way, you won't have any display at all, at least for the V-Line. Alright, and then our screws for the display are 7mm. And the screen will come out right after that. The only cable we're going to need back here is this top one. Pull that out, and then our GBNMF is going to plug in right there. And then here's what that cable looks like. I've got the display port on one end, and we got these two ends here. As you can see, these are basically the same, just different colors. So the male end is going to go into the actual back of the display, and then the female side is going to go into the male here. And now that you've got those ran, you can just drop your display port down. And you can reassemble that. Now that we've got that done, we've got our display cable here, and we've just got to plug in a few more things behind the radio itself. So we're just going to run this off to the side for now. And then you can note that the end over here should be the other end that actually goes into the radio, and this is the female that was back here when we originally ran all that. So we'll go ahead and plug that back in first. Just gonna go right there. Looks like the clip's actually broken on this one, but you should have a clip on there that'll hold it actually in place. The next cable we're gonna do is gonna be our main power harness here. We'll go ahead and plug in the actual factory side into those. Right. We'll put that to the side with the display cable as well. And the last thing we're going to plug in back here is going to be this cable here. This will plug into the V-Line. This is similar to the display, but this one has the blue tip on it, whereas this one had white. It's going to go in this far one over here. Now that we've got all those plugged in, we've got everything here that we need to run to the V-Line. These three cables. If you're doing a microphone or a flush mount USB, you'll need to run those as well. We're going to be doing one of those in this vehicle, but that's kind of vehicle specific and depends on how you want to do that. So we're going to go ahead and install those and then we'll come back. Alright, so we went ahead, we've got our microphone and our USB ran. Look at those here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run all the VLine cables through to the glove box here. So we're going to get all those together. I like to try to get the big ones first, the 20 pin here and the display port cable, just to make sure that they're not tangled up with anything. And then they're also kind of bigger, so they're the harder ones to run. Once you get those through, getting the smaller ones through is a lot easier. And this cavity back here is just straight through. You can touch your hands together through it, so it's super easy to get cables through. I'm not worried about too much slack at this point. Once we get everything ran through, then we'll plug in our V-line, and then we'll see how long the cables need to be in the glove box, and then we'll actually pull them back over here, and we'll organize those. So we've got all those where we want them. We're going to go ahead and take this V-line, and we're going to plug it in. We've also got the GPS antenna ran right up here. Alright, so now we've got all that plugged in. We can tell we have way too much slack here. So we're going to start pulling some of that back over here. If you're going to be mounting the V-line, this is the time to do it when you're routing all your cables. That way you can figure out exactly where you want it. We're going to be putting ours on the back wall right here. So we're going to want our cables to run directly up and into the glove box there, but we do want to make sure we have enough slack that when the glove box is open or closed, that the cables aren't getting, pulled on or getting bent or, caught between the glove box and any trim in the back. So let's go ahead and pull this through. We got our slack where we want it there. USB. There we go. Then we're going to tidy up the GPS antenna too. We're going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then we'll come back to it. Alright, so we just finished getting all the wires organized for the V-line here. We velcroed it to the back wall, and then we know that there's plenty of slack here, so we can, open and close it just fine. Nothing gets caught. Back here, we've also zip tied our V-line wires together. This is mainly just to get any slack that we had kind of out of the way. Makes it a little bit easier to plug everything back in and fit the radio back into its slot. So the next thing we're going to do is plug in all the factory connectors. Before you even worry about picking this back up, it's best to just plug in the longer connectors. So we're going to start with this one. Looks like a GPS antenna or satellite antenna. And we got a few more down here that actually reach. That one will go. And it looks like we've just got 2 or 3 more connectors here. Alright, so we're going to lift this up. And you just want to watch out for the shifter. The slot down here for the cigarette lighter can get caught in that. So you don't want that to happen. Here's the pink one. Also, when you plug these in, try to route them around other cables. Try not to get your wire ran between 3 different cables when you plug it in. So just go straight to the plug. We're going to lift this up and plug in our last 2 cables here. And with these, you also want to make sure they click into place. Sometimes they don't fully click. And if they don't fully click, when you put the radio back in its slot, they could come loose. This is a little too short. Some of these harnesses might be short where you kind of have to almost have the radio in its place for it to go into the slot. Now that we got that done, we're just going to lightly set it up here. And before we put it back into place, we want to make sure that we've got all of our cables correctly ran. We want to make sure there's none in the way of the trim going back into place as well. If you ran them the same way we did, you want to make sure that these air vents here, that you don't have any cables ran up through those or in the way of those. And it looks like we're good here. We pulled the cigarette sockets back out of place. Or back into their place, I should say. And we're just going to snap it all back in. And it's best not to push just really hard in one area. It's good to push all around to get equal pressure, as long as you don't crack any clips or break the trim in any way. So now that we've got that back in place, we're going to go ahead and put our 2 screws back in here. Also, if you have any cables down here, just make sure you kind of push them back. This is just because we use a T-harness. Makes the cables a little bit longer. In that case, there's more slack back there. I'll get those back in place. We're just going to put this back and we'll be done. And if this is in the way for you, or you can't figure out how to kind of slide this around, the shifter can just be shifted back into like reverse or drive. Just make sure the engine's not on when you do that, or else it can cause issues. And then the other thing too, when you're putting this back into place, if you have too much slack from the T-harness down here, you will have to move it out of the way. And there we go.